Hi, welcome to Finding Joy in the Mundane. I am your co-host, Lauren, and this is your other co-host, Aya.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show, and we're really excited to have you on here and to have this topic because
It's a good topic this week. I mean, I think it's kind of our favorite topic, friendship.
yes, I think we've been talking about doing this topic for a long time, so we're
Yeah.
excited to just do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an easy thing to talk about, finding friends and how that can impact your mental health and how that can either hinder it or help it, and how it can impact your overall quality of life.
Even though it's such an easy topic, friendships is something that we're being taught and learning since we're in preschool. It's still something that we struggle with.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we live in such a culture of being independent and not depending on anybody for anything. And just kind of living on your own and just being self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it kind of difficult sometimes to form those relationships and be dependent on friendships, and not necessarily codependent,
Yeah.
but dependent. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, we talked about this to where it's like we live in such a world where being an independent, self-sufficient, you're on your own, take care of yourself culture is so prevalent that it feels like if you can't do that, then something is wrong with you.
Like, who are you to need a friend?
Or family.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just don't think that we were even made that way.
Yeah, I mean, I oftentimes am like, excuse me, I need to phone a friend.
And I am that friend, and I am the same person that needs to phone her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we feel weaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think oftentimes, I put myself in the shoes of myself when I'm at work. You know, right now, we're kind of in a comfortable scenario and an environment where I can be myself and I can depend on a friend. But when I'm at work or in a scenario where I kind of need to put my big girl pants on,
big girl pants on,
yeah.
Because you have to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I need to kind of put on that persona of I'm independent and I can do this myself and I don't need any help, and I can see myself now. You know, this is kind of different than those intimate friendships that we're talking about today, but you know, I can see myself often telling people, oh no, I don't need your help, I've got this. Like, I can set this banner up by myself, or I can do this registration table by myself.
Yeah.
It's fine. Or I can plan this event all in. Like, it's all good.
No, I get it. I remember someone once asking me if they can help me carry something that's obviously too heavy, and I'm carrying too many things. And I'm like, no, I got this. It's mine. Yeah. I want to carry it all the way to my car. And in the reality, do I really want to carry this all to my car by myself? No.
Right.
I just didn't want to look weak.
Right. And I think that stems from that culture of independency.
Yeah.
That, you know, we're all kind of fueled with at this point, the world of 2025. And, you know, you're kind of trained to not depend on other people, but really we're relational beings.
Yeah.
You know, in my line of work, I work with small businesses, and I always kind of lead with, we all thrive in our businesses by forming relationships. And I think the same is true for friendships.
Yeah.
And individually, you know, we all thrive relationally, and by forming those relationships, it's so important to thrive individually. So why should we kind of think that we need to be independent? You know?
I don't know where that concept honestly came from. I think it had to do a lot with the feminist movement, where we, as women, wanted to be independent. and continue to want to be independent and need to be. So I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying I think that's where it started, to where we wanted to be able to be independent and not be reliant on our husbands and reliant on someone else for our housing and our future.
Right.
So like, and I think that's completely valid.
Right.
Like, I don't want to ever be dependent on Sam for my entire livelihood.
Right. Right. I mean,
because if he were to die, then exactly, if he were to die, then what happens? That's a completely valid place to want to be in that independence realm.
Exactly. I mean, I think like, you know, myself, I'm a single household income.
Yeah.
A single income household. So I can definitely relate to that. You know, I can't rely on anybody. I have to be independent. I have to make sure that all of my bills are paid. I have to make sure that, you know, I'm not relying on anybody. I can't rely on anybody else because there is nobody to rely on. And so, you know, from that standpoint, it makes it difficult to rely on anybody from a relational standpoint because you're not relying on anybody from a financial standpoint. Makes it difficult to rely on anybody from a trust standpoint.
Yeah.
Let anybody in relationally, internally, you know, into your heart. And so whether that be, you know, a friendship or intimacy, you know, with a significant other. So, yeah.
I think it has to do a lot with the concept of like being indebted to someone.
Oh, for sure.
Like that whole being, there's like independent and then dependent and then codependent that we talked about. And it's like, if you're independent, you're all by yourself. If you're codependent, then you're all about somebody else. When you're just dependent, then you're dependent on each other. There's this like
healthy balance.
Like this shared like vulnerability that I think that you would be able to create with knowing that like, yeah, like I am dependent on Lauren for friendship. I'm dependent on her for emotional support. I'm dependent on her for whenever I'm upset and just need somebody to vent to and just, or I'm dependent on her for whenever I just want to have fun. Like there's so many different things. Or whenever she needs cat sitting or whenever I need cat sitting. Like we have each other. To be able to like call them up and be like, hey, like, will you be able to help me with this? Without feeling like because I did this or because she did this, then now she owes me something.
Right, right.
I think that's what a lot of relationships now lack, is that now whenever you do things for other people, they have this expectation of you doing it back. And whenever you can't do it back at the other's timeline, then you're not a good friend. And all of a sudden you're not reliable. All of a sudden you're not dependable. And you've hurt them. When reality, like whenever you ask for the first favor, they were able to do it. And then what if they were to ask you for the favor, but you physically weren't able to do it? And now you're indebted. And that hurts a friendship because no one wants to feel indebted to the other.
Right. And is that even a true friendship?
I don't think so.
Indebted.
No.
You know, I think of like those movies like Sharpay and, you know, those girly girls that are like, you know, snooty and with the noses up, that just kind of hold over how they've helped you. You know, that's not true friendship.
That's not true relationship.
Right.
Because like I feel like we can have that further than just friendship. Because I had this kind of like relationship with family, like with my sisters, like especially with one of my sisters, like she is very transactional. And that's what I had to learn, is that whenever, even if it wasn't promoted by her, so if I were to just freely like go clean her apartment so that way she could just feel at peace, and she has a very demanding job, she then feels like she has to give me clothes or do some favor or buy me something. In reality, I just went there just so that she would feel better about being a single mom. I had nothing to expect. I didn't want anything in return. But because she felt like she had to, she would give it to me. And to me, I would accept it, thinking, oh, she just wants to give this to me out of her heart.
Right.
I don't want to deny that because that's mean. So then I accept it. And then all of a sudden, she asks me of something that I can't do because we all have our lives. We're all mothers. And then when I can't do it, she feels like I've wronged her. She feels like I didn't deliver what I should have delivered because she just gave me this thing in return. It's like that stupid rule. I think it's stupid. With like birthday gifts, if you were to get a birthday gift, you're supposed to give a birthday gift. And at that point, are you just inviting the person to get a birthday gift? That was my question. I'm like, that's all you want? Because then at that point, I will save the gas money and just send you the birthday gift.
Yeah, I don't need a birthday gift. Don't get we don't get each other birthday gifts.
I just care more about like, you know, even if it's a few days late, because you know me, I have ADHD, it probably will be, but like just the fact that like we want to celebrate it,
right?
Like you having
just
that intention
together. Yeah.
I don't care if it's like just any time in the month.
Right.
It's like, hey, it's your birthday month. What do you want to do?
Right.
What weekend works best for you?
Right.
Versus being like, oh, you weren't free on my birthday weekend. You didn't free that up. Like, I can't believe you're that kind of friend.
And I think that ties into people pleasing. Like, you know, you try to kind of read what people are expecting of you.
Yeah.
Or do what they think they expect.
It's like mind reading. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I don't know about you, but my crystal ball is broken.
Yes.
And
I don't even have a crystal ball. I'm just like, I hope that this works.
Oftentimes, it fails. And fails miserably. So
because we're not the other person.
Yeah.
And if the other person can't communicate with us honestly about it, then we're both set up for disappointment.
Right.
From the very beginning. Even if you try your best to mind read and do all the things, like if they've never even communicated what they genuinely want and like feel, then you're just playing in the dark and hoping you kind of like get it right.
Yeah. And how exhausting is that?
Right?
Like,
is that even friendship?
No. Like, true friendship, in my opinion, is being able to communicate and communicate honestly.
Yeah.
Without fear of making the other person mad. So you don't have to worry about pleasing that other person, because as long as both parties are honest and true to the other person, then both parties will be happy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, you know, maybe it won't be the answer you expected, but
that's
as long
okay.
as it's the honest answer, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
You know, and in a true friendship, that should be really what you expect.
Yeah.
Is that honesty.
And having that room to where it's okay to be honest and it's okay for it to not be the right answer.
Right.
For the other person. Like, it's okay that it hurts you a little bit.
Right.
I'm not saying that your friends should hurt you, but being human, like, we will have other people's opinions that will be different than ours. And giving room for that it forces us to grow and teaches us how to be relatable and beyond places that we've grown up in. And I think that is what makes a human more human. Because if we're just stagnant to what we know, what we think, then we will just die as we are. And I think that's one of the worst fates.
Yeah.
To never know, to never grow. Like, so that's why I think having multiple friends is so important. So that way you can grow in different ways. And we don't need each person to be everything for us.
Right. I mean, no friend is going to be your end all be all. And you can't expect that.
Yeah.
Because that's just exhausting for that friend. Like,
yeah, it's not fair.
No.
It's not fair to you if someone else were to do it to you.
Right.
And it's not fair for us to do it to them.
Right. And that goes for your spouse too. Like,
yeah.
Could you imagine Sam being your end all be all? What if
he
Sam
failed me? He would fail me. I'm telling you that I will tell you that now, because he can't be.
What if Sam was the one that you complained to Sam about?
You know, we do have this thing especially when I was very like scared to be vulnerable with other people and didn't have friends. I would tell him, I'm like, okay, at this point, I need you to stop being my husband
and be my friend.
And be my friend. And he would know at that point that I'm talking about some other person, some other situation that doesn't involve him, and he has to stay in that to provide that support to me. And you know, I understood that probably like was really hard for him.
Yeah.
And now I'm grateful that I have you. I'm grateful that I have other people like to be able to speak into that. Like where I could go get that perspective and then come to him with love and not force him to kind of be that person to me, because he does love me.
Right, not force him to shoulder that.
Yeah.
In every situation. That's not to mean that you can't go to your spouse about situations or fill him in on, you know, that coworker that's getting on your nerves or whatever that you talk to your best friend about. But, you know, it's also to kind of give them a break, or to kind of keep things light at home, maybe, or
give them permission to be broken.
Right, you know, and maybe they're the ones that you're complaining about, or that you're having an issue with, or whatever the thing that it may be, and it just kind of takes the tension off of that relationship.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I feel like that spousal relationship can bear the brunt of that friendship as well, because oftentimes, you know, we hear that term that you leave your parents and become one, or, you know, you both become one, and that becomes the end all be all for every situation. You know, you're each other's everything. You're each other's best friend, you're each other's family, you're each other's...
And that's true.
Yes.
You could have those elements.
100%.
But you can't be my 100% my best friend, 100% my husband, because
100% of the time.
100% of the time. Like,
right.
When we're sitting here trying to figure out how to parent, and we have different parenting styles, or we have different ideas of how we should live our lives, then
you might need to go bend the ear of another, you know, female friend.
And it doesn't mean that it's just out of like, oh, I can't talk to him, I can't like express how I feel.
Right.
It's more like you're trying to gain a different perspective that's not emotionally charged.
Right. And seeking counsel, you know, and not necessarily seeking validation for your perspective, but just seeking counsel, you know, especially from same-sex relationships. I think that's something else that is important to kind of point out, is you got to have that boundary of, you know, you need to have that same-sex friendship.
Girls think different than guys.
Yeah.
And guys, like guy relationships and girl relationships are just very different.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with having friendships of opposite sex necessarily. Like, I know at church, we have had friendships of the opposite sex that, you know, we've all been part of like the same friend group. Yeah. And so but
there's also that cultural stigma of no purple.
No purple.
No blue and pink.
Oh.
No purple?
That's new to me.
Really? That's funny, because, you know, you grew up in the church. Yeah, anyway, when I first heard it, I was like, so, like, we can't even talk to each other? And, you know, how else are you, especially when you're, like, dating and that, like, before you've been married?
Yeah.
Like, how else are you supposed to understand the other sex?
Yeah.
And date them. Yeah. And, like, interact with them if you don't even have, like, a perspective that they would have. So, like...
I think it's having that discernment. You know, that's a spiritual gift, is having discernment. And I think that's a very important gift to develop and to really pray for. I think that's something that I'm not going to say that I've been blessed with, but something that I have really prayed to the Lord for. Yeah. And actively trying to work towards and develop. And so when you're faced with those situations, you can kind of tell, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk to this guy friend about this particular issue. Yeah. You know, even though they may not take it the wrong way, you know, maybe it just wouldn't be appropriate. Maybe I should keep that for a female friend. Yeah. And just to kind of maintain that boundary, because you don't want any question, especially when you are married or when that individual is married or whatever, you know, you just don't want any kind of question. Yeah. But that's different, because we do think differently, and then also, you know, perspectives from the outside looking in is also important. You know, if so-and-so sees you and so-and-so talking constantly, assumptions are made, and
you don't even know what they're even talking about. Yeah. Like, it could be the purest thing.
The rumor mill will go rampant, and that's the last thing you need. And
at the same time, it's not our job to control that mill. Right. Because, like, once we try to, then we're living at other people's thoughts, other people's whims.
Right. But that is the reality we live in.
That is the reality we live in.
Unfortunately. Especially here in the South.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the same everywhere, but the South is all I've got to go by.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, especially with Middle East, like, I mean, you're not even allowed to be in the room with the person that's supposed to be pursuing you. Yeah, even in like the dating engagement, especially engagement stage, you're supposed to be chaperoned by another parent.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Crazy. And it's because of those like standards that you're trying to uphold, and other people's like limiting other people's thoughts of what they think of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that does kind of put a huge conflict in female male relationships. That doesn't necessarily have to be there, but it often protects more than it hurts.
Right.
And that's what I've realized, is that no friendship, unless it's like your husband eventually, like no friendship is worth you compromising who you are. Mm-hmm. So there's always that. And like, but also with friendships, to have friends that would be able to like confront you about it, but also not put that on you and not condemn you. Yeah. Just because it is a little bit difficult to tell, being like, well, is this healthy?
Speaking of you not wanting them to put that on you, talk about like confession. It talks a lot in the Bible about confessing to one another and being vulnerable with one another. That's important with your friends, to be able to confess to one another, or not even just that, but just to kind of be vulnerable about things that you're maybe tempted with or struggling with, and to not be able to not feel judged by them.
Yeah.
That's so important in a friendship, to be able to kind of grow yourself and to work through hard things, because let's face it, life is hard.
No one's perfect.
Life is hard, and we're going to go through hard things, and we've got to be able to grow together.
Yeah.
And have that support system to find our way through it, and to not feel excluded because of it.
Yeah.
So
honestly, I think if we genuinely had good friends to where we're able to be honest with and open with our struggles, then many wouldn't lead to that ultimate like destruction or that ultimate temptation, because they're able to actually work it out with their friend, because they were being honest instead of feeling all alone in it. And having that, secrets keep you sick, and they keep you like locked into whatever it is that you're trying to get away from. So the way to unlock it is by being open and honest to someone that won't condemn you, won't judge you, so that way you can be free from it. And you showing that, bringing it up to light, shows that that's not the life you want to live, one, and two, that you need support to be able to walk away. And I think that shows strength, not weakness.
Right.
Because I think the weaker part would be to struggle with that and then fear judgment, and therefore to just fight it on your own, and then end up, because you're fighting it on your own, end up failing. And then at that point having to like deal with the consequences.
Yeah, that continuous cycle of just fighting it alone, and not coming to your friends about it. I mean, at that point, is it a true friendship if you can't come to your friends about it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I really don't. I think if they were to take that struggle and put it on you and like judge you as a person, I don't think that's fair. Because as the friend, you wouldn't. I would never do that to my friend. So for them to do it to me feels like a betrayal. And especially when you're vulnerable with them, because it's like easily be like, I didn't even have to tell you this.
Right.
I could have been able to continue this facade and continue this friendship and do all of this without you ever even knowing. And that may have been what they preferred.
Right.
But that's not the kind of friendship I want. So I think that's honestly what matters, and continues to matter more, is what kind of friendship do you want?
Yeah. And that's something to consider as you go through life is, what kind of friendship do you want? Do you want that deep connection of heartfelt, I'm there for you, I will be there for you no matter what type of friendship? Or do you want that superficial, oh yeah, I'm there for you when it matters, and like, as long as people are looking, like, I'll be there for you. Like that type
honestly,
of friendship.
like, the fact that they even exist, I'm sitting here like, I'm like, who would ever want that? But like,
but
yeah,
it does exist,
and people want that.
People don't realize that, but they do want. It's not like, I don't think we mean that judgy, and we don't mean that judgy.
No,
we just, it's a difference in perspective, and it's a difference in intra perspective. You know, it's a difference in knowing who you are, and where you're at internally, and knowing where you want to be.
Yes.
You know, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, because like you understand what kind of friendship you do want and what you don't want. And whenever you're confronted with this, then it's not like you're judging the other person for the kind of friendship they want, but the very least, you know that that's not what you want or could have or need.
That's not what you can have in order to succeed.
Or handle as like a person.
Yeah, as a person. Like, it's just to succeed. Like, with all the things that the world throws at us, you need people in your corner, you know? And to find those people that are in your corner, that's so important. And once you find those people, you can't let those people go. So if something happens that causes a wrench, to go into the middle of those relationships, like, I mean,
talk through it.
Yeah, like, it's not work through that.
What is actually that big or that worth you like losing a friend that is able to be, that you're able to be vulnerable and comfortable and like share life
What's worth that? Like, why would you want to lose that?
I can't think of one thing that you can do that would genuinely, or say that would genuinely make me like not want to be friends with you or think differently. And it's just because I allow you to just be you.
I mean, same. And in a true friendship, that's what you do. You allow that person to be, and to be unapologetically.
And be broken.
Oh, yeah.
Be a broken person.
Because that's how Jesus sees us. I mean, this is my wallpaper. Let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God, and not come put together, but to come broken.
To just be ourselves.
Yeah, because he's our friend. He's our, like, and just like our
He's
friend.
The lover of our soul.
Yeah, just like our friends, our best friends on earth. So is Christ our Savior. And so, that's what we need to find. That's the types of relationships that we need to build, is those types of Christ-seeking and Christ-centered relationships that emanate that type of relationship.
And you help, like, encourage and build each other in that.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how dark it could get, we can always shine the light on each other.
Right.
Without feeling judged or intimidated or anything. Because we know and understand that the other person's doing it out of love. Right. So I think that's what really matters in friendships, and what, you know, a lot of people with mental health like struggle with is because they can't necessarily be fully themselves. And, you know, sometimes being yourself is being broken. And means not living up to the other person's expectation and failing to show up or not feeling like to show up. And having the other person not judge you for it or not take it personal, but to meet you where you're at. Because, like, at the end of the day, does the person care more about what you're doing or the event that you're going to than just being in communion with the person? Right. Because ultimately, if it just has to do with being with the person, then you're able to let go of the event and show up for your friend and be like, well, if you don't feel like going to this,
then what's going on with you?
Then what's going on with you?
Right.
Do you want me to show up with some ice cream?
Yeah.
Us watch some movies?
Yeah.
Like, and just show up and then figure out a way we can rebuild each other. And I think not enough people are willing to be that.
And yeah, that's why I think it's so important to find friends that accept you for who you are, because they're the ones that are willing to go through the hard times with you as well as the good times. Yeah. Because that's the ones that, you know, if they're willing to go through thick and thin with you, I mean, that's the ones worth keeping. Yeah. You know?
And honestly, if you're not willing to see me on my worst day, and I know this is cliche, if you're not willing to see me on my worst day, then you shouldn't be allowed to see me on my best and join in that. Right. And, you know, like, I would hope that my friends would have been the person that helped me get to my best day. Right. So, yeah, this is us on friendship. Join us next week as we discuss something. That we will figure it out. Thank you so much for joining us and finding Join the Mundane, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.